Hello, this is the MyFatoorah technical support team, and in this video, we will guide you through the integration process of Authorize and Capture feature. You need to contact your account manager to check for the availability of the feature in your country and enable it for your account. First, let us clarify what is the Authorize and Capture. Normally, when a payment is made, the payment is authorized and captured in the same step. The authorization and capture feature enables you to separate them into two steps. One step for the authorization, and then another step for the capture. In the second step, you're able to capture the amount either fully or partially, or fully release the amount. In this video, we will use Swagger to demonstrate the requests you'll send from your backend to MyFatoorah endpoints. So first, we will use the execute payment endpoint. In this endpoint, we will use only the mandatory fields as well as the fields related to authorize and capture. First, we have the payment method ID. This refers to the payment method that we will use, and I have authorize and capture enabled for payment method ID number 2. Then we have the invoice value, which is the amount to be deducted, and then we have the AutoCapture. This accepts values true and false. If set to true, the amount is deducted directly without authorization and capture. If set to false, the payment will go through the authorization and capture steps. If we remove the object of AutoCapture from the request, the payment will always go to the authorized and capture flow. So first, we will initiate a payment in the execute payment endpoint, and we will set the value of AutoCapture to false. And then we will call the endpoint. Then we will open this payment URL and make a payment. And we will submit. Then we will take the invoice ID. After we make the payment, we will call get payment status. So if I have the invoice ID, the key type is invoice ID, and try it out. The status of the invoice will remain pending, and we will notice that the invoice will have one transaction and its status will be authorized, and the transaction value is the full value that we have added in the invoice value in the execute payment endpoint, which is 100. The next thing to do is to capture or release the amount. In this attempt, we will make a partial capture to demonstrate how the capture works and that the partial capture is available. The operation is to be done from an endpoint called update payment status, which is this one. So regarding the fields, we have the operation, and it accepts either capture or release, amount, which is the amount to be captured or released. If the operation is capture, the amount range is more than 0 and not more than the invoice value. In the release, this field is optional, and if you use it, the amount should be equal to the invoice value. Then we have the key, and the key could be referring to the invoice ID, payment ID, or customer reference, and the key type will specify what is the type of the key that we used. In this example, we will use the invoice ID and capture an amount of 50. Then we will call the endpoint. You will notice that the response of update payment status endpoint is similar to the get payment status endpoint. First thing, the invoice status is now showing as paid. The amount of the invoice has also changed from 100 to 50, as you can see here. And you will also find that the first transaction, which was authorized, is still there, and the transaction value is showing as 100, and a new transaction has been added, which is showing as success because this is the capture that we made, and the transaction value is now 50. Okay, now we will go to the next example. We will initiate a payment in capture and release without using the AutoCapture parameter. So let's remove this. Now let's call the endpoint. We will take the payment URL and make a payment. As we said earlier, since we didn't use the AutoCapture parameter, so this is an authorized transaction. So the next thing that we need to do is to call update payment status, whether it is a release or a capture. For this example, we will make a release. We'll add the invoice ID and make the amount to be full. We will call the endpoint. We will find that the invoice status is showing as pending. The first transaction is showing as authorized and its amount is 100. And then the new transaction is showing with the status of cancelled and the transaction value is 100. And the error is that the transaction has been released. In the next example, we will make a payment using the AutoCapture instead of the Authorize and Capture flow. So we will go here. We will set that to be true and then call the endpoint. We'll take the payment URL then enter the card details and make the payment. Submit the OTP page. Since we passed the value of the AutoCapture to be true, we will find that the payment is already done. Let's call getPaymentStatus just to find out. You will find that the invoice status is already paid, and the invoice value is 100, and there is only a single transaction, and its status is success. Here are some notes regarding the authorize and capture. First, there is a duration after which an authorized transaction will be automatically released if you don't perform an operation on the payment. If you're using webhook for transaction status change, you will receive a webhook event for the capture and release operations. You can only perform one operation on an authorized transaction. You can't capture or release an invoice twice. Thank you for watching this video guide on the integration using Authorize and Capture. We hope this helps streamline your payment processes and enhance your customer experience.